February 2017, a flight attendant on a flight from Seattle to San Francisco observed something strange. There was a mature gentleman, very well dressed, accompanying a young girl. The girl looked in distress, so the flight attendant decided to intervene. At the right moment, she handed over a note in the hands of the girl. "Do you need help?" And the girl replied, "Yes, please help me." The pilot notified the police. By the time that plane landed, the man was apprehended. He was a human trafficker. And if it wasn't for the bravery and observation of this flight attendant, the girl would have been trafficked within the US and perhaps in other countries. This is a case of human trafficking with a happy end. Unfortunately, upon researching thousands of cases, this is the exception. Most cases do not have a happy end. Modern-day slavery, the hidden crime next door, where 1 out of 150 people is enslaved. And there are so many different ways, so many different types of trafficking. We don't even know the full list. It's interesting because I've been gathering data for the past 20 so years, trying to identify what's happening with human trafficking. I've been trying to give short notices or information to my students so that they are protected of the risks. Unfortunately, year after year, these statistics don't get any better. So we see, as of today, we have almost 50 million victims globally, which is about 300 billion with a B annual earnings for the traffickers. And it matters because human trafficking is a huge human rights violation. It matters because the vast majority of those victims belong to marginalized, vulnerable members of our society. And most importantly, it matters because once these people are captured, they don't have a happy life. It's a life of brutality. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. Everybody thought, wow, this is one pandemic, which was a big deal. But in reality, we were talking about a double pandemic, and no one saw that coming. You see, what they were telling us, this is the new normal. It didn't feel anything like normal, right? Did you feel it was back to normal? Did we ever get back to normal? And we had 2 very important changes in our society. It feels like yesterday, so front page news, the world in turmoil, an economic crisis resulting from a health crisis, people with medical bills, people losing their jobs, or people resigning out of fear or for whatever reason. This is one part of the equation, where vulnerable people became a little more vulnerable. But there's something else in our online behavioral changes. Just before COVID, the vast majority of people, let's say a statistical average, would spend about 5 hours a day in front of a screen. How many of you are spending more than that, like way more than that, right? According to a very, very, very recent research, now, 2023, the average person spends 12 or more hours in front of a screen. Half of our lives. You know what this means for traffickers? They took advantage of those 2 changes, and they amended the way they operate. Do you want to know how these guys operate? Let me show you. Now, Upon examining almost 50,000 cases of international trafficking, one thing became apparent. Every victim is unique, and every trafficker or transnational criminal organization has its own modus operandi. However, they work with certain patterns, 4 steps. Step number 1, targeting. This is when the trafficker decides to approach or spot victims. This can happen face-to-face or online. With COVID, they couldn't do the face-to-face. They shifted online way more than before. And I'll explain why this is bad. The anonymity, fake friends, social media, right? People you don't even know. Item 2, the second stage, grooming. This I call the honeymoon period, or it doesn't matter what type of trafficking we're talking about, but it's an uplifting situation when a trafficker approaches a person and they tell them, you know what, I have an amazing job for you, only it's overseas, only it's away from your family, right? Because they want the victims to be isolated, far away. So the grooming stage is very hopeful for a victim that is, they don't know they're victims, but they think their life is going to change for the better. Until it doesn't. Because we move on to the third stage, the breaking point. That point is when the victim sees the trafficker for what they are. Now they know they are trapped. There's nothing they can do, because usually the human traffickers are going to blackmail. They will threaten to kill family of the victims, the beloved ones, children, right? That's what they do. Which takes us to the fourth stage, exploitation. This is not a happy life. Key words here are malnourishment, sleep deprivation, deprivation of water, and many other things. I mean, the list is so long, we need like 5 weeks to go through everything they do. Chameleons. This word was coming to my mind as I was doing my data analysis, policy analysis, because those traffickers are like actors. They can take any role the victim needs them to be. So if a person is unemployed and they're searching for a job online with those fake profiles, this is one of the many cases, right? New employer. It's on top of the list, one of the favorite roles of the traffickers. Another favorite role would be intimate partner. They appear as a person with good intentions. They meet the family, and then they vanish with the victim. Drug trafficker, and another term I want to use, addiction enabler. Let me explain this. Let us assume that within a family there is a young person using drugs. The family is not going to be happy. They will need to reprimand the young person. Well, the new friend, this trafficker, is going to do the opposite. They will say, come on, it's not such a big deal. You're doing good. Why is your family so strict with you? You see? So this is how they lure the victims. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, we live in an amazing, unprecedented era with so many technologies, the marvels of artificial intelligence, physical and cybersecurity, facial recognition, and of course, at the University of Houston, we talk about science, technology, engineering, mathematics. There are so many tools out there which the authorities are using, and they work. They're extremely effective. However, there's a tiny little problem here. Human trafficking is one of these problems that is complex. In the military, they call it asymmetrical. Asymmetrical problems require intricate, complex, asymmetrical replies or solutions. For this reason, it would be much better if, as a society, we could exercise situational awareness. Let's look around us as we go shopping, as we walk in the street, as we fly on that plane. Is there someone among us that might need our help? And we're too busy with our egos and ourselves, and we don't even pay attention to people around us? This is important. Let me show you now how we can do our good deeds, right? First of all, see something, say something. This is the slogan of the Department of Homeland Security's Blue Campaign. In every country, governments have some initiatives. In America, we have some amazing initiatives under many departments. But here's the thing. We don't play the police. We don't pretend to be detectives. We let the authorities do their job. But we inform them if we see something that is dramatic, like something very extreme. Second, volunteer, donate your time, your resources, and perhaps some of your time could go back to your profession. Maybe your job, your industry is related to a government entity where you can help each other, right? To fight trafficking. Third, help survivors. Remember, when those victims very rarely escape, they become survivors. Are we willing to open this door with understanding of what these people have gone through? Give them a job, mentor them, help them as a part of the community, our religion, right? And then, of course, to be able to recognize the victims, we need to know certain things. There are many trafficking types for every industry. So we have forced labor, for example, and there are people working in the fields, people working in literally every industry, and many, many other trafficking types. Appearance, watch out. Malnutrition, maybe these people look brutally beaten up. Some of these people may be followed by technologies, so they're always spotted, or maybe there is a trafficker watching them from a distance. Something that is going to be a very precise indicator is tattoos. Often, gangs or traffickers provide tattoos like branding to their victims. Some of them could have a barcode. Some of them, right there, write the name of the trafficker, property of Mr. John Smith. Some others may write the name of the gang, property of gang X. So, ladies and gentlemen, there are many researchers out there, and I belong to the family of researchers where burning the midnight oil is very important for us. We love to research until 5 in the morning, trying to solve problems of our community. In these efforts, we are truly, ethically happy if we can help those victims, even if we've never met them in person. Reading their cases from data analysis, reading the files, is the same as if we've met them. So, Nicholas Kazantzakis was an amazing Greek thinker and author. He said, "Love, responsibility, because it's my duty and mine alone to save the world. If the world is not saved, then I alone am to blame." Thank you so much. Thank you. Oops.